Hey, geometry. I realize in normal classes I usually get some time to go over the homework, and I haven't been doing that in those videos. So the beginning of this today, and probably for a few on, it's going to be just going over a couple of questions from the homework. And some people had some questions, so I'm going to go over both 13 and 15. Okay? And if you had trouble with like 16 on top, use 15 to help you. Okay, number 13. So I'm going to start writing down all the numbers that are in the angles here. Well, actually, before I do that, I'm going to find how many sides there are. Now, how many sides there are equal to how many angles there are. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides. So my n equals 8. So that's going to help me find the total, all the angles add up. So 180 times 8 minus 2, 180 times 6, and then 180 times 6 is 1080. So 1080 is what all these angles add up to. Now we're going to follow up. So 1080 equals all these angles. So I'm literally going to write every angle just straightforward. And just to save time, I'll just jump cut to it. Okay, I wrote all the numbers. Now I'm going to combine like terms. Now I combined all like terms. So that's 815 plus 3x. Now I'm going to subtract the constant. Now it turns to an algebra 1 question. So I'm going to subtract the constants. So that is 90, so that's 75, and this is 2. So we have 275 equals 3x. And I know it's 3x because I had the x plus 2x adds up to 3x. Then I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides. And slight error in subtracting is 265. And then 265 divided by 3 is 88.3 repeating, which is x. If you know, that is 88 and 1/3. Both are okay. I don't care which one you write. So that's 13, and I'm about to go over, I believe, 15. All right, next one. We have 40, 45, 2x, 77, and x. These are exterior angles. So no matter if there's 5 or 500 exterior angles, it always adds up to 360. No need to do any work in that aspect. So 360 equals 45 plus 40 plus 77 plus 2x plus x. So I put all the angles together. Okay, so now we're going to combine like terms. So 45 plus 40 plus 70 is 162, plus x through 2x plus x is 3x. So these are like terms, while these are like terms, equals 360. I'm going to subtract 162, subtract 162. So this is going to be 98. No, I'm sorry, 198 equals 3x. Then I'm going to take 198 and divide it by 3, which is going to be 66. So 66 equals x. That's me going over the homework. I also post the answers of the homework, so I suggest you check your answers to the homework to see if you're off, and you just ask me the question, Mr. Tobel, I didn't get number 13. That way I can explain it in detail in the private comments if that helps. Okay, now we're going to get to the actual lesson. Okay, so if you're somebody who is taking notes, I would put this in the same section as yesterday's. So finding polygon angles, we're just going to continue something because I forgot to tell you about something yesterday. So it's finding polygon angles continued. For this one, we didn't talk about a term which is called a regular polygon. So that's kind of like a definition, I guess, if you want to think of it like that. So that's when a polygon has all the sides, and angles are congruent. So we've worked a lot with one type of regular polygon, and that's an equilateral triangle, where all the sides are going to be the same size, and all the angles are guaranteed to be 60. Now, why is it guaranteed to be 60? Because we know there's 3 angles, and we know the total of the sum of angles have to add up to 180. So we do 180 divided by 3, which is 60. Now let's talk about a square here, or a 4-sided regular shape, which is called a square. All the sides are equal, and all the sides are right angles. Well, how can I tell that for sure? Well, I know a square has 4 sides, so 4 minus 2 times 180, so that's going to be 360. So all the angles have to add up to 360 in a 4-sided shape. Then each angle is exactly the same, so I'm going to divide by 4, and that makes that 90. So to find the interior angle of a regular polygon, we're just going to find the total angle, like how much they add up to, and divide it by how many angles there are. Just like here, the total amount of angles add up to 180, and then you divide by 3 to get each one, which is 60. The total angles add up to 360, and we could figure it out by 80 times n minus 2. And then divide it by how many angles I have, so each one should be 90. So right now, I want you to try a pentagon. Before I finish, or pause the video or whatever, a pentagon, so that's 5-sided shape. 180, 5 minus 2, well, that's 180 times 3. That should be 540, divided by 5, because there's 5 sides, so there's 5 angles. If there's 5 sides, there's 5 angles, and vice versa. I drew this pentagon horribly, but ignore that. So 540 divided by 5 is 108. So each angle here, if they're all the same, or if it's a regular polygon, is 108, 108, 108, 108, 108. Okay, so literally your sample question will simply be this. Please tell me, how big is a single angle in, let's say, a regular, let's take a regular decagon. So regular decagon, first off, we got to remember what decagon is. A decagon happens to be a 10-sided shape. So decagon is a 10-sided shape. So I'm going to do 180 times 10 minus 2. That's 180 times 8, and 180 times 8 is 1440. Then divided by how many sides I had, which is 10. So it's going to be each angle being 144. So each angle inside a regular decagon, so that's a 10-sided shape that has all the same size and angles, each angle is 144. Okay, so that's it of 8.1. Now let's get to our actual lesson of 8.2. And again, I apologize, I forgot to mention this yesterday. So you're going to put, if you do write notes, you're going to put this in the 8.1 section. All right, so now we're going to be in our section 8.2, properties of parallelograms. Now, first off, the question should be said, what is a parallelogram? Well, let's look at the name, parallelogram. Parallel, so there's got to be something important about parallels. So a parallelogram has to be a 4-sided shape, what we call quadrilateral, that each opposite side is parallel. So this side and this side is parallel, and then this side is parallel to this side. Okay? So a parallelogram is just a 4-sided shape with opposite sides being parallel. And if you wanted to know, a rhombus, a square, and a rectangle are all technically parallelograms. And we'll get more into detail how to identify what. But this right here is a parallelogram. Now, because they're all parallel and because we have exactly 4 sides, we could tell 2 things from that. One, we could tell that the top and bottom angle are congruent. I guess I'll use 2 tick marks because I use 2 arrow marks there. And the left and right side are congruent. So you could tell, and maybe put this down, opposite sides are congruent. So the first one is opposite sides are congruent if it's a parallelogram. The second part is that since they're parallel, they kind of act like mini transversals. And transversal is a word we haven't heard in a while, but because they do act like that, this is all you need to know. You don't need to know how to make it. I'm just going to tell you what it is. This and this angle, so the cross, the opposite, the diagonal angles, however you want to say it, and this are congruent. So since it's a parallelogram, you could also say opposite or diagonal or whatever you want to call those two type of angles are congruent. So parallelograms are really nice because since a lot of things are congruent, if we know one side, we could find the other, just like this example that's about to appear. All right, so this one is x plus 4 and 12 are on opposite sides. So if I want to find x, all I do is x plus 4 equals 12. Oh, and I have to either tell you it's a parallelogram or show you with like arrows or a parallelogram. So this is a parallelogram. So since we know it's a parallelogram, we can say the opposite sides are equal. So x minus 4 on both sides equals 8. So I just set up the two sides to be equal to each other. And the two angles that are across from each other are also equal. So 65 equals y. There's no algebra needed. So y equals 65. So basically what we could tell from here is that we could find both sides or angles as long as we have the opposite side or angle. And that's a very convenient thing with parallelograms. And you could kind of tell what the type of algebra problems there are. Okay, so what I just set up is an example problem. So you have to decide which one is the first thing I have to solve, and then what's the second thing I have to solve. I'll give you a second to pause and try it yourself. If you have done that, now here's the answer. So, first thing I'm going to do is 5x plus 5 equals 35. And I'm going to do that, and let me just circle both of those, and because they both belong in the circle, they equal each other. 5x plus 5 and 35, since this has one variable, it's easy to solve. The problem with this one right here in the boxes is that that's a 48, by the way, and I apologize, let me make that again, 48. 2x plus 7y and 48. I have two variables here, so it's going to be really hard to find without finding one of them. So let me use the one variable situation. So that's 3x plus 5 equals 35. I'm going to subtract 5 on both sides. So 3x equals 30. And I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides. So x equals 10. All right, I just found x. So now I could do the angle part. So that is 2x plus 7y equals 48. Well, I know what x is now, it's 10, so I could do 2 times 10, which is 20, plus 7y equals 48. Subtract 20 on both sides. So that's 7y equals 28, and divide by 7 on both sides. So I end up getting y equals 4. A little bit off the screen, I'm sorry about that. But y equaling 4 is my two answers here. X equals 10, y equals 4. I found my variables. All right, now we're going to talk about something, a special property of parallelograms. All right, there's two special properties of parallelograms. This one is much straightforward. Okay, how many sides does a parallelogram have? I said it in the beginning of the video. Good job, it's 4 sides. So then, we're going to know that x plus y equals, if it's a 4-sided polygon, we could figure out by 180 times n minus 2, and n is 4, so 180 times 2 is 360. So we know the inside has to be 360 degrees. So then I could do 2x plus 2y equals 360. So then I could divide 2 out of everything. And as long as you do it from everything, that's totally legal. So x plus y equals 180. Now what does that tell me, this little equation right here? That tells me if I could take these two adjacent angles, or these two adjacent angles, or these two adjacent angles, or these two adjacent angles. So if you're taking notes, adjacent, I put UG, adjacent angles. So not opposite angles, but like ones are next to each other. Always add to 180 degrees. Now I use variables here, but the fact that the variables always going to end up equaling 180 degrees, we could tell that for a fact. Another way you could think about it, if you know the whole thing's 360, then you know half of this has to be 180. So adjacent angles are always add up to 180. So that's what I want. Oh, in a parallelogram, of course. In a parallelogram. Okay? So that's the first special one, which is very straightforward, very simple. I feel that it's very simple. Okay, the next one is that if we have two diagonal lines, so two diagonal lines, and when I say diagonal lines, they have to go from corner to corner. No cheapness. So two diagonals lying like that. So they're going to corner to corner. What happens is that this side over here is going to be cut in half. So this line over here, from here to here, is cut in half, or bisected. And if you remember by bisection, that means that these two pieces are equal to each other. And then over here, this is going to get cut in half. Right here and right here. So these two pieces are cut in half. So these are also being bisected. So I'm going to put some letters here. A, B, C, D, and let's put a E in the middle. So if I know it's a parallelogram, and I have two diagonals, I know for a fact that AE should equal EC, because it's getting bisected. And I know BE is equal to ED. Okay? So from that, I know that these things are getting cut into pieces and cut into the same size pieces. I should also point out that this angle and this angle are equal. Give you a second. Why are they equal? Great job, vertical angles. And this one, for the same reason, are also equal. Sometimes that's going to be relevant, depending on the question. So let's use those two rules to our help. So let me call this A, B, C, D. And then let's see. I'm going to call this 75 degrees. Find me each angle. Okay. So opposite angles are equal to each other. So find me, if I'll be more particular, angle B, angle C, angle D. So angle C, I know for a fact, is going to be equal to angle A. So that's a real easy one. That's 75 degrees. Angle A and D are adjacent. And because they're adjacent, I know it adds up to 180. So 180 minus 75 equals 105. So angle D, in this case, is 105. Now, since I know this is 105, and then I know this is 75, you have multiple roots. I think the easiest route to get the answer is that since you know this one's 105, you know the other one across is also 105. So that's one type of question you could get. And maybe in the question, I'll just ask you, find just B, you know? So you got to know either it's going to add up to 180 or is it going to be exactly the same to A. Okay, last type of problem that I would expect you to do. We have two diagonals here. And I hope it's kind of clear. This is 35, 18, 5x, 2y. I kind of realized from the looking back at the video, I should be saying my words or my numbers, because it's not very clear with this type of marker. Okay, so if this is a parallelogram, then I know this and this should be congruent, and I know this and this should be congruent. So I have two types of two problems happening at the same time. I have 5x equals 35, and then over here I have 2y equals 18. So I just solve each one separately. Y happens to be 9, and 5 divided by 5, x happens to be 7. Okay, I hope this video comes to you clear, comes to you honest. Again, what I would like you to do, guys, is when you do your homework, is check your answers and be like, wow, I didn't get that at all. And then try it again. And then if you don't get it after that, you know, send me a private message. Some of you guys are doing that, and I appreciate it. So it's easier for me to help you, because I'm grading 32 homeworks a day from you guys, plus other things. I know you're busy also, so I don't want you to spend too much time. The homework is not going to be too much, and you guys should be able to finish it within the 10 minutes. Oh, I should point out, this homework, there's a lot of shapes. You don't have to redraw all the shapes if you don't want to, but you do at least show the equation. So set up, like here, if this was the homework, I wouldn't have to redraw the shape. I would just draw this piece and then show my answers. So that would be work for me, okay? I don't want you, I imagine you spending a lot of time drawing shapes, and if you don't need to, don't. You know, I don't want to spend your time. You're already very busy right now. All right, stay well, keep clean, all that.